after a lot of research on seats, I found these RRX seats from Corbeau, and it'll slide and come right off. Comes right off. And pull it forward and then slide it down. Easier as a two-person job. It actually pushes the connector out. Now I just need to get the seat out of here, which is a little more challenging than the other side because of the steering wheel. One thing we need to do is transfer the seat buckles from the stock seats over to the new seats because I want to retain the ability to use the normal 3-point harnesses, the stock seat belts in the car. 6-point harnesses are not street legal, so I can't just, I want to keep the car street legal and be able to use it. Plus, using 6-point harnesses in a day-to-day driving situation is just a pain in the butt because you can't use a 6-point harness without using a helmet and a head restraint system. And if you don't know why, refer back to my video on safety and how to make your track car safe. So this is a 17mm socket. Now I don't know why, but this particular bolt, the frame on the Recaro seats is not the same thread. It needs a completely different bolt. I'm not sure why the Porsche specific frame that comes with or that I ordered with the seats doesn't have the correct threaded hole. I'm not sure why that is, but it is what it is, and I just need to get a different bolt to mount it on the other frame. So here's the kind of tricky bit about all this. As you can see, the seat buckle has a wire coming off it, and this is the sensor system that allows it to detect whether or not you've actually buckled your seat belt, and it runs up and it connects into the electronics of the seat and consequently into the car, or subsequently into the car. And so I could just cut this off. I mean, this is just a simple 2-lead wire. I could cut it off maybe up here somewhere, and then in the future, if I wanted to put it back on the seat, I could splice it in. But I think what I want to do instead is I want to take the wire along with the buckle and just kind of bundle it up and put it in the new seat. But in order to do that, there's no way to disconnect it from this end. You have to disassemble this connector up here and then remove the wire from inside there. It's not a huge deal, I don't think. I've never done it before, but we're going to find out. First, I'm going to just take and pull. There's just one of those little snap holder things to hold the wire in right on that hole there, and then just remove it. And this is just a split wiring loom holder thing. Another one here. Ooh, tough to get my fingers in there. Get this loose. Okay. Okay, now we need to get in here, and to do that, I'm going to need to cut this wire tie to get it loose. Wire tie loose. Now, this is a bit of a challenge. There are two clips that go onto some projections of this little gray part. This little gray part is what's got to slide out, and it's kind of a little bit tough because they're not very big and you don't have a whole lot of room to work, and it's really just hard to even see it. There's one right here and one right here, so kind of stick my fingernail in there on each one. Let's see if this works. If I can just slide it enough to get one loose, and then the other. Now, okay, it'd be easier to pull this open and then slide this off this holder. Yeah, that makes it a lot easier to get to. I really need a third hand at this point, honestly. There. So I just kind of like got my fingernails in there and then just used my hand to pull it. And this, there, it just comes right loose. I can, oh, okay. All right, no, that is the locking mechanism as part of this piece, but that's okay because when I put it back in one day, it'll have the locking piece. Just slide this out under this air duct for the cooling system. I think there's plenty of clearance. All right, there we go. Now, I don't know why, but here on the passenger side, the wire is routed completely differently. It goes through a series of clips here along this edge, and they're just like single-sided clips, so they just pull right out. Then it goes through a wire tie there and winds its way around to that same yellow box, which is much more buried in the other stuff on the passenger side. So let me cut this thing loose and get it, and then we'll attack that box to see if it's any different. Okay, that wire tie connector that's right here is just impossible to get a set of snips on. So it's one of those that it's a holder that pops into a hole. It's just like a typical trim holding thing. And I'm just going to pop it loose. I'm going to use one of these trim removal tools. If you don't have one of these, get one. Get the whole set of trim removal tools. I use them constantly. I'll give you a link to a set like the ones I use. Just get it underneath that connector and pry up, and it pops it right loose. And now I can get at it with a pair of wire cutters and cut it loose. Okay. And I will go ahead and pop that back in if I can. Now, it's just coming loose. I'll take both the wires out and just pop it back into place. There. It was much harder than I thought it was going to be. Working this wire out. Can't really get it through here because it's so tight, but I'm just going to get myself enough slack here to work with. So we'll do the same thing to kind of get this thing out of here to make it easier to work with. Remember, you just reach under here, and it's probably a lot easier to see than it was before, and pull the bottom of this forward. That closes up those clamps up top and releases them, and it'll just slide down and come out. And now this is going to be far more difficult than it was on the other one. Get this into position so I can get my fingernails in here and release those two clips. Ooh, this is going to be tough because I got no way to pull it. Ah, there, it turned loose. There we go. And this one did not have a wire tie around it. I've seen several things on this side that lead me to believe that this seat has been removed and worked on before. Now it's got a route. Get this thing to go back through here, which is going to be challenging. Oops. The thing came apart. I'll worry about that later. Get this other wire out through here. Oh goodness. I think I might end up having to remove this weight sensor unit to get this wire through here. Right. This weight sensor control unit is held on by the by some of those ubiquitous T20 Torx screws. Oh, wait a minute, where is it? There it is. Wow. Nope, that wasn't enough. Holy cow. I'm rapidly beginning to question whether this is worth it. Okay, this is taking a bit of puzzling out, trying to figure out how to just get this subframe loose without taking a bunch of other stuff apart. It looks like there are 3 T27 bolts that are holding that down. Oh, good Lord. That's what I was afraid of. This duct is attached to that subframe. Whose bright idea was to route this thing through like this? Back to the T27, or the T20. There, maybe, come on. There, finally. Wow. Okay. Now, these two things appear to be identical and they seem to have the same part number stamped on them, but just in case, I did mark them as driver and passenger side. I'm going to install them on the same side. Like I said, just in case. Well, it's been quite a bit of finagling and figuring and trying out different things, getting the seats into the Cayman. And I knew that this was not going to be a simple drop-in replacement. There were going to be issues that had to be resolved. But nothing really major. One thing was, well, first of all, I found putting the seat up on my hydraulic table like this, where this is kind of at a 45-degree angle, made life a whole lot easier in terms of adjusting and fitting everything. And so just, if you can do this is the way to go, I think. Now, the actual frame, this is a frame and a set of sliders that I got with the seat from Corbeau. And it supposedly is specifically for Porsches and Caymans specifically. But what I found was that the holes were not quite exactly right. I think they were either fractionally too close together, both this way and this way, or they were fractionally too far apart. I can't remember, but these were like 7/16 holes, and just boring them out a little bit, maybe like to half an inch instead, gave me that little bit of wiggle room that made it possible to get everything lined up and get the bolts in. Now, once I got the seat into position, started testing it, a couple issues came up. One, I was getting some rubbing right here against the center console, and it was making a kind of irksome squeaking sound. Not much, but enough that it just kind of irritated me. And also that I wanted to use the seat belt attachment point here that's built into the frame, and this part of the frame bolts directly to the floor. This doesn't move. I wanted to remount the stock seat buckle right there, and also put in and hold it on by using, and kind of hard to see here, by using a standard harness eye bolt, so that I could clip the harness, the 6-point harness, the lap belt of the 6-point harness onto the eye bolt right here. And there just wasn't room between the seat and this piece here. And this piece was flat up against the center console. And so I really couldn't mount it on the outside. There's you can see here the bolt is poking out, and that's not a big deal because there's enough give to the carpet where it fits. I could have cut that off, but I decided to just leave it as is. But those two issues I figured I could solve by spacing the seat up a little bit, because it's really low. It's slightly lower than the stock Porsche seat, but these issues I thought I could solve by putting in a spacer. So I started off by mocking up some spacers in wood. And these are 1/8 spacers, and after installing it again and checking it out, I found that, well, probably 1 1/8 to 1 1/4 is going to be spot on. And so I made these aluminum 1 1/4 inch spacers once I determined exactly how it needed to be done. And the nice thing about aluminum is you can pretty much work it the same way you do wood. And so I just used standard woodworking tools, cutting them to size. And then just drilling them out. Even though I'm using a milling machine to drill them out, I could have done it just on my regular drill press also. The final step was to take and sandblast the blocks to kind of ease off the sharp edges and also give it a nice finish. I know no one pretty much is ever going to see them underneath here, but I know, and so it makes me happy. I did have to go get longer bolts, of course, with the spacers in there, but I just ran down to Ace Hardware. They had them, no problem. So once I did that, I put this passenger seat back in, and it solved all the clearance issues. There's still a little bit of rubbing here and just a tiny bit of squeaking, but you really have to like rock back and forth and make that bolster move in order to get the squeak. It's certainly livable, and I think I might end up just taking in, like, either on here or on the side of the console, just gluing a small piece of felt as a rub surface. Kind of like what Porsche has already done here, and I'm not sure how visible it is on the camera. There's a little piece of felt that's glued right there on the seatbelt buckle for the same purpose. You can see here I took the stock seatbelt sensor connector wire and just ran it up under the seat and used a couple of zip ties to keep it in place. This under here, this is the wiring for the heater, the seat heater. I'm just going to leave that alone for right now. I'm trying to get the car ready so that I can use the seats and the harnesses at Sebring next week. So I'll deal with that when I get back, because I would really like to tie the heater system into the stock switches that are in the dash. Like I said, the passenger seat's already installed. Let's take care of the driver's seat. Getting these seats in and out of the car is a whole lot easier than the stock seats. For one thing, you have the shoulder belt slot here, a nice convenient handle that you don't have on the stock seats. And also, the Corbeaus are considerably lighter. The driver's side seat is 15 pounds lighter, and the passenger side seat is 22 pounds lighter than stock. The easiest way I found to do this is to go in with the top of the seat first and then rotate it around. Working it under the seatbelt's not too bad. You just kind of scoop it in. And then work it into position for the mounting bolts. There we go. Just got to put the bolts in now. Okay, that's it for part 2. We got the seats installed and they look really good. Now, part 3, I'm going to record in a month or 2 or 3 after I get to spend some time with the seats, drive on the street with them, take them out on the track. Also, after I get the racing harnesses installed and get it all together as one complete package. And now, I'm not going to record that for a couple, 3 months, but it should get published soon after this part. Now, did you enjoy part 2? Then go down there and smash that like button. Seriously, it really, really helps me with growing the channel and giving me a chance to create more content just like this. And while you're down there, take a look at the subscribe button. Is it red? If it's red, that means that you're not subscribed to the channel. Even those people who are subscribed, they've been telling me sometimes they find themselves suddenly unsubscribed. So go check it. If it's red, go ahead and give it a click and become a subscriber or resubscribe, whichever the case may be. That also really helps with channel growth. Now, I'm going to be doing a lot of new stuff here with the Cayman, including the low restriction air intake from PCS Innovations, a GT3 throttle body, and I'm going to be installing a high flow IPD intake plenum, and I'm also going to be going with an engine tune, either Softronic or Cobb. I'm still up in the air on which one I'm going to do. I'm also going to be getting deep into upgrading the suspension for the track. I'm going to be starting off with a nice set of coilovers that I've already ordered from Flat 6 Motorsports. And I'm also going to install some camber plates, probably some anti-bump steer tie rod ends, and a few other bits and pieces, working towards getting a full-blown track and street capable suspension on the Cayman. Now, if you want to keep up with all that cool stuff, as well as all the other stuff that's going on here in the garage, go click on that bell icon. That turns on notifications for this channel, and that way YouTube will let you know every time that I post something new from here in Cliff's Garage. I'll see you next time.